All right, it's Friday. We are on the precipice of Super Bowl 58. We really haven't talked about it a lot this week for good reason. All the hype surrounding it, we allow that to transpire because all we really care about is the game itself. So now that all of that dust has settled and the smokes is starting to clear, we can really get to the meat and potatoes of the situation. And we're going to discuss Super Bowl 58 and all of its splendor today on the show. That's all we're really going to talk about, except the NFL did have its awards show on Thursday night. And I want to talk about the winners. Hall of Fame class of 2024 announced. I want to talk about that briefly, and then we'll dive in to our preview and prediction for Super Bowl 58. The LouieTeeNetwork podcast starts now. The Louie T Network is powered by MusicHead University. MusicHeads, classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description. Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to the 395th installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I, of course, am your set man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. So this should be a quick in and out pod. We should be here roughly an hour or so. I'm not going to talk your head off. It's cut and dry. We've gotten to the final two contestants in this thing we call the National Football League. San Francisco 49ers, Kansas City Chiefs. They're doing that dance again for the second time in 5 years. And so this should be a fantastic contest. The two of the better teams in the league. I think the Ravens, you could argue, was the best team in the AFC all season long. Obviously, they did not make it, but the Chiefs won the Super Bowl last year, and you can never count out Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid and company, Travis Kelce, so forth and so forth. So we will dive into that here more momentarily. But I want to start the show before we get into the Gem Droppin Session and start really diving into the Super Bowl. I want to talk about the NFL awards and all that came from it last night. First and foremost, I like the format. I like them doing it on Thursdays rather than Saturday, the day before the Super Bowl. It allows the players that are playing in the Super Bowl to be recognized and to be there, accept their awards, et cetera, et cetera. So I think moving it to Thursday, it was good for all parties involved. I like the glitz and the glamour, the red carpet of all of it allows these players to be recognized because football is all about the shield and the team. You don't see players as their face. You're not supposed to take your helmet off. It's a different day and age now. We know what these players look like. Once upon a time, before there was social media, and you weren't allowed to take your helmet off on the field, you really didn't know what these players looked like. But even still saying that, you get to see these players outside of the gridiron, being themselves, dressing up, having a good time, coming together. I like that because the more you can humanize these players, I think the better it is, because so often fans get stuck on the performance on the field and treat them as if they're robots. Like they shouldn't have any other thing to do. If you're not getting better at your craft, then what is your existence on this earth about, right? Like that's how some people carry it. And so I like them being able to get out and say, no, this is me, right? This is how I operate. This is how I move. And also see them be rewarded, praised, and given credit for their exploits on the football field. So with that said, we also had the Hall of Fame 2024 class announced. We'll get to that very last before we head over to the Gem Droppin Session. But I want to run through these awards very quickly. So offensive and defensive rookies of the year were CJ Stroud on the offensive side, Will Anderson on the defensive side. So for the second consecutive season, both the offensive and defensive rookies of the year come from the same team. So what you're seeing are teams double dipping in the first round and having tremendous success, and their first rounders are performing like first rounders in the same draft. Last year, the Jets took Garrett Wilson and Sauce Gardner. Gardner went, third overall, I believe, or fourth overall. And then Garrett Wilson went 10th overall. And, obviously Garrett Wilson won Offensive Rookie of the Year last year, and Sauce Gardner won Defensive Rookie of the Year. This year, CJ Stroud went second overall to the Houston Texans. They then traded back into the top 5, if I'm not mistaken, to get their hands on Will Anderson Jr., who ultimately won Defensive Rookie of the Year, the edge rusher out of Alabama. So Texans first rounders paying huge dividends immediately as both of their first round picks from this past season win Rookie of the Year honors. So you get to the Walter Payton Man of the Year award. I love this award. I love that the players get the little decal on their jersey, letting everyone know that they're a Walter Payton Award winner. Cam Hayward of the Pittsburgh Steelers won the distinction this year. And I just love that the NFL highlights all of the great things that are being done off the field by these players. I don't think enough people understand the charitable efforts that go into being an athlete. There's more than just playing, whether it's basketball, football, baseball, whatever, sport, hockey, whatever you're playing, soccer. I don't know what the soccer players do. I can't speak for them. I know about the other sports and how much they're in the community, helping out, doing things to empower the communities that they work in, essentially. And I love seeing players being recognized for their great efforts off the field. And even if you don't win, it's still bringing more awareness to what it is you're doing. Each team having a representative for this award, a nomination rather, or a nominee for the award, brings more awareness to what is being done, in the community by these players. And Cam Hayward has always been a great guy off the field, and now being recognized, winning Walter Payton Man of the Year award. Here's an interesting one here. Comeback Player of the Year. So there was a lot of debate prior to the NFL awards. Remember Joe Flacco, and I think I spoke about this briefly on the podcast about a week or so ago. Joe Flacco said Damar Hamlin deserves to win the NFL Comeback, Player of the Year. Like, I get it. I was able to help lead this Browns team to the playoffs after getting off my couch and essentially jumping in the fray in November and helping them finish strong. And I started a playoff game and nobody wanted me. I get it. But Damar Hamlin almost died on an NFL field. It was this whole situation. We never thought this guy, let alone play again, we didn't know if this guy was going to live. He's able to make this miraculous comeback. A lot of the staff, they were honored at the NFL honors last year. It was a touching moment. They were able to get him to a position where he was able to get to the hospital, be stabilized, obviously get back on the field this year in a much less, in a much lower capacity, right? His role was lessened this year to more of just a special teams player. That said, he still came back and played football a year removed, less than a year removed from, damn near dying on the field. So it was a foregone conclusion that he would win, at least a lot of people thought. And Joe Flacco said, yeah, give him the award. I don't deserve it. Give it to him. Well, Joe Flacco won NFL Comeback Player of the Year. And how this thing actually went down was Flacco won based off of the amount of points he accumulated from the total amount of votes in first, second, and third place votes. So actually, Damar Hamlin received more first place votes. Flacco received 13 first place votes. Hamlin, on the other hand, received 21 first place votes. What Flacco ultimately did, though, was he made up ground and passed Damar Hamlin with his second place votes. Flacco had 26 second place votes. Hamlin only had 7. And Flacco had 8 third-place votes. Hamlin had 14. And so Flacco ended up with 151 points. Meanwhile, Hamlin only had 140. So despite having more first-place votes, Flacco gets the nod. And, this ultimately ended up being like a Clinton, Bush, and like Clinton, Bush, Perot type situation. Ross Perot jumped in the mix, stole some of the votes from Bush, and that allowed Clinton to sneak in and get it done in 92. That's kind of what this, because Baker Mayfield jumped in the mix as comeback player of the year. And I think it was Baker who took a lot of those second place votes away from Hamlin, because if you voted for Hamlin first, then you didn't need to give him a second place vote. And I think a lot of those people gave those second place votes to Baker. And if you picked Flacco, you might have went Baker second and then Hamlin third. And so I think it was Baker Mayfield's presence in this voting that really gave Joe Flacco the dub. But Flacco was definitely deserving, but Hamlin should have won the award, right? Like, if we're talking about based off of play on the field, which I think a lot of people did their voting based off of play, and there's nothing wrong with that, Flacco got the nod. But if we're just talking about, bro, he died on the field and they brought him back to life, and then he ended up coming back and playing in an NFL game, that's it. It's over. Like Vince Carter in the slam dunk contest, it's over at that point. But that's not what happened. And shout out to Joe Flacco for coming off the couch in relief in a year when nobody wanted you. You stayed ready, and you were able to help the Browns go to the playoffs. So Joe Flacco is your comeback player of the year. So you have, let's go to defensive and offensive players of the year. We start with the defensive player of the year. Myles Garrett won the award over TJ Watt. And I think they got it right here, but Garrett started out on this massive tear. If you recall, probably the first 9-10 weeks of the season, there was no defensive player in the league better than Myles Garrett. Then I think he got a little banged up and he wasn't as dominant. I mean, there was one game against the Colts where you could argue single-handedly he won them that game. It was a crazy contest. The Browns had no business winning. The officials kind of stepped in and ensured that Cleveland won that game. But it was one of those like 38-37 or 38-36 type games. It was crazy, all kinds of turnovers. Myles Garrett, I think, had a safety that he got. He also forced a fumble that ended up in a touchdown. He blocked a field goal in that game. I mean, when I tell you a guy single-handedly won a game defensively, that's what Myles Garrett did in that game against Indianapolis. It was one of the most destructive performances I'd seen all season long. That said, I don't think he particularly finished the season that strong, but the damage was done already. He definitely staked his claim early in the season. And because nobody else stepped up and ran away with it, I think he was able to hold on. I think he built an insurmountable lead and then held on for dear life and ultimately was your defensive player of the year. So, shout out to Myles Garrett for winning NFL Defensive Player of the Year. Offensive Player of the Year, this was a no-brainer. Christian McCaffrey of the Super Bowl representatives from the NFC, the San Francisco 49ers. Christian McCaffrey was outstanding. He was arguably pound for pound the best player in the league, not just the best offensive player in the league. You could argue he was league MVP this season. Without his contributions, the 49ers are not in the Super Bowl representing the NFC as the NFC champions. But he was outstanding this season. He caught it. He ran it. He scored a touchdown in how many consecutive games? A lot of those were multiple touchdown scoring games. So it wasn't like he just scored a touchdown. A lot of these were 2 and 3 touchdown performances from Christian McCaffrey. He led the league in touchdowns this season, all-purpose touchdowns from, a position player. And Christian McCaffrey was just outstanding this year. And he, by a wide margin, wins NFL Offensive Player of the Year. And then let's get to the two, I think, that we talk about the most. And that's NFL League MVP and Head Coach of the Year. And so let's start with the Head Coach of the Year. So Kevin Stefanski won, and I think we thought he would win. And I think I told you this on a pod about a month ago that we expected Kevin Stefanski to win. And I think it was right around Wild Card Weekend when both Stefanski and D'Amico Ryans were meeting head-to-head. We said those are going to be the two guys competing for Head Coach of the Year. And I said, I think Stefanski's going to win it, unfortunately, because I think what D'Amico Ryans did in Houston deserves to be acknowledged, and not acknowledged by talking about it in passing because he came in second and nobody remembers second place. He needed to be awarded this award so that people remember the job that he did in his first year in Houston. That said, Stefanski's already won this award. He won it his first year as a coach in the league when he did something no other coach had been able to do for the Cleveland Browns in years, which was take them to a playoff game and then win a playoff game. So he deserved all the credit in the world for the turnaround in his first year as a head coach. But the job he did this year was spectacular. I mean, to go through as many quarterbacks as they went through, Watson getting injured and ultimately being lost for the season. Then you go to the young quarterback, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, to see if he can give you a spark. He was awful in his first start against the Ravens. They sat his ass down, put in P.J. Walker, and he wasn't that much better. You know, they survived with P.J. Walker, but you weren't going to survive very long with him at quarterback. He gets injured as well. And so now you have to go back to Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and that's going to be a mess. They could have made a trade at the trade deadline. They decided not to make a trade. And, you know, Jacoby Brissett was out there, and there were other quarterbacks like Joshua Dobbs, who the Vikings ultimately traded for, that would have been available, but that might not have gotten them where they ultimately went. They turned to Joe Flacco. And what he was able to do with them, it was anything short of magnificent. Hence, Joe Flacco winning Comeback Player of the Year. So Stefanski deserves this award. I don't know if he deserves it more, however, than D'Amico Ryans. And this is how close it was. Like we talk about those two. They actually ended up with the same cumulative score. Both of them scored 165. Total in terms of first, second, and third place votes. Their scores both equaled out to 185 or 65 rather. So that's how close it was. However, Stefanski had 21 first place votes and D'Amico Ryans had 20. And so by virtue of the one extra first place vote, Kevin Stefanski was awarded NFL Head Coach of the Year. What a distinction to have won it twice now in his career. And what a close race that was. And I think it was indicative of just how good both of those coaches were. Very both deserving, but Stefanski takes the hardware home. And then lastly, league MVP. This one was easy. Lamar Jackson. We knew he was going to win it. Had a dominant season, led the best team in the football pretty much the entire season. They were dominant against opponents all season long, especially teams with winning records. And Lamar was a huge part of that. Unfortunately, when they needed to get it done the most, however, he wasn't able to do it. But this is a regular season award, as we know, and he was the most dominant player in the league this year. And so he wins his second MVP trophy. Coincidentally enough, when he won it back in 2019, they were also the number one seed. That time, though, they were eliminated in their first game in divisional round against Tennessee. This time, they made it to the AFC Championship game, but were eliminated by the AFC champion Kansas City Chiefs, who will be representing the AFC in the Super Bowl. So those were the awards. I quickly want to go through the Hall of Famers for the 2024 class. You know, I have dubbed myself one of the gatekeepers to the Hall of Fame, even though of recent note, I have relinquished a bit of that control, because if the NFL doesn't care, then I don't care. Right? If you're just going to let anybody in, like Deion Sanders said, then I can't be a gatekeeper anymore. Right. But every now and again, I like to look and see what's going on there. So Hall of Famers announced: Dwight Freeney, well-deserved. Devin Hester, well-deserved. Andre Johnson, well-deserved. Julius Peppers, well-deserved. Patrick Willis, we could talk about that at a later date and time. We'll circle back to these Hall of Famers and talk about each of their careers and how I felt about their careers. Now we're in the era now where the guys that we got to watch their entire careers, and it's fresh in our memories. Like all of these guys that are going in, we watched every single one of these games that they played in. We're getting out of that era of guys, and there'll still be a few that haven't gotten in that should have gotten in, and a lot of you didn't watch their careers and you don't really know what they were about. And that's in my case too in some of these instances. But for the most part, we're out of that era where, a guy like Tim Brown just gets in, and some of you are too young to know what Tim Brown was about, right? All of these guys just retired within the last decade. So we watched their entire careers. Patrick Willis, and then the two senior Hall of Famers, Randy Gradishar and Steve Mongo McMichael, who also had a very successful wrestling career after his NFL career ended. You might remember him as a member of the Four Horsemen. Anyway, I digress. Those two are getting in on the senior ballot. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 new entrants in to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And again, we'll circle back and tackle those in another show. But let's get to why you probably showed up here today. And that, of course, is to break down Super Bowl 58. And that would require us to jump into the Gem Droppin Session. Let me drop this gem on your melon. Open your mind. Let your conscience be free. You're now rolling with your man, LouieTeeNetwork. Let me open you up. Get you thinking a little bit. So let's talk about Super Bowl 58 and what it will entail. So you've got the number 3 seeded Kansas City Chiefs, the Super Bowl defending champion Kansas City Chiefs, taking on the number 1 seeded San Francisco 49ers in the NFC. So this is a really good matchup. The only thing that probably would have topped it would have been Ravens and 49ers, the 2 1 seeds. But I like this matchup. And, I'm glad that it ended up being what it did, because there were so many conspiracy theorists out there. Oh, my God. The Super Bowl colors of the logo means this is the team these are the teams that are going to be in the Super Bowl. And so I'm glad that shit didn't happen, so we can put all of the crazies in the corner by themselves and tell them to face the wall, right? Like, let's not have that conversation for 25 minutes. So we got 2 of the better teams in football squaring off. And it's funny to say 2 of the better teams and not the 2 best teams, because really, when it's all said and done, until somebody knocks them off, as my dad, said to me, boss man said, look, till somebody knocks off the Chiefs, they the champs. And I'm not going against them. And he taught me a valuable lesson in the divisional round when I picked Buffalo. And y'all knew how I was riding with the Bills and Josh Allen and company. And boss said, I'm telling you, the Bills aren't winning this game because it's Mahomes, it's Reed, it's Kelsey, and those boys don't know how to lose. And until somebody knocks off Patrick Mahomes, give me the Chiefs. I heard that lesson loud and clear. And that's why I picked the Chiefs in the championship game. And this is going to be a fascinating matchup. And I think it's pretty simple. I think this is a cut and dry breakdown. I don't think I need to really spend a whole hell of a lot of time explaining to you what does or doesn't need to be done by both teams. I think it really ultimately comes down to the 2 defenses in this ball game. And for the most part, the 2 defenses have been really good this season, but Kansas City's defense has been better than San Francisco's of late. The 49ers defense has not been impressive in the postseason. And if they continue to play the way that they had been playing, the past 2 playoff games against Detroit and Green Bay, respectively, they will lose this football game to the Kansas City Chiefs if the Chiefs can continue to play at the level offensively that we saw them play at the last 2 games in particular. Well, really all 3 of the playoff games, starting with the win in frigid temperatures at home against Miami. Then I thought their best performance, you could argue, of the season, maybe the Bears game earlier in the year, but I would argue it's the most complete performance I've seen from the Chiefs. The run game was on point. Mahomes was in his bag. Kelsey showed up, 2 touchdown grabs in that game. Everybody, chipped in. MVS with the catch late. Or was that the next week? I think MVS had the catch against the Ravens to put it away. But you saw everybody chipping in and doing their part, and the offense looked like the Chiefs offense that we've come to know and love. And then the Ravens game, they started out like gangbusters, and then they kind of just held on for dear life, and they really just moved out of the way and let the Ravens self-destruct. That said, it kind of felt like in that game, if they needed to, like we saw at the very end when they needed a couple first downs to end it, and they got both of them, felt like if they wanted to rev up the engine offensively, like had Baltimore tied the game or had taken the lead at any point, felt like Kansas City could have revved the engine back up and gone down and gotten points if they needed to. But they didn't need to, so they never did. And then on that final drive, when they needed to get the 2 first downs to run out the clock and advance to the Super Bowl, they did, right? So it kind of felt like they could do whatever they wanted to do when they needed to do it. And if the 49ers show up with that bullshit-ass defense we saw in the NFC Championship game, which allowed them to fall down in that game 24-7, they won't win this game. They will not be victorious in this game. If they get caught slipping like they did against Green Bay, who had their way on the ground against them, the Lions had their way on the ground against them, and the Lions were able to throw it against them. And if not for drops in that game and not for some questionable decisions that we could go back and forth debating, but at the end of the day, that's who they've been all season. And, had they succeeded in those 4th down attempts, again, it's a different ball game, but they didn't. The 49ers made the plays. They got the stops when they needed to. They made the offensive plays when they needed to, and they came out victorious. That said, they're going to have to step it up on defense. If they don't, they'll lose the game. And conversely, the Chiefs, if they continue to be suffocating on defense like they've been, they're going to win the game. So for me, let's start with Kansas City's side of things. They're the defending Super Bowl champions. We'll start with them. I just talked about their defense. There was a chink in the armor in the divisional round against Buffalo where the Bills were able to run it down their throats. Now, as that game progressed, Buffalo found it tougher and tougher to run the football, and they really utilized a short pass game to supplement that run game, and they found themselves having to try to rely on, some of those short passes more so than the run game because the Chiefs started to really hone in on the run. They brought that extra defender down and started to take away the rush lanes that they were seeing earlier in the ball game. But then that opened up, if you recall, Stephon Diggs one-on-one, and Josh Allen throws a beautiful, perfect deep ball that Stephon Diggs drops, right? So when you get nosy, because the run game is being effective, now you got to send that extra defender down. Now you got one-on-one on the outsides, and the Bills weren't able to take advantage. Can the 49ers, who have run it successfully with Christian McCaffrey all season long, can they establish the run early in this game? Can they force the Chiefs out of that too high shell, force them to come down, be aggressive around the line of scrimmage, and catch them napping and potentially get behind them with a Brandon Ayuk down the field vertically? We'll see if they're able to do that, to create a one-on-one that they can take advantage of down the field like they were against Detroit, even though it should have been picked off by Kendall Vildor. They still took advantage of a one-on-one opportunity down the field, and that really sparked and jump-started that comeback for the 49ers. So I think one of the keys to the game for the 49ers, and we'll talk about them here in a second, is to run the football. If you're the Chiefs, you have to establish your run defense early in this game, because really what it boils down to is we just talked about Christian McCaffrey being the offensive player of the year and winning the award for the league this season because he was so dynamic. He catches it. He runs it. He is the engine that powers that 49ers offensive attack. You slow him down. Remember, I gave you the prediction that the 49ers would beat the Lions if Christian McCaffrey surpassed 129 yards of total offense in one touchdown. Well, he had over 130 yards of total offense. I think he had like 137 or 143 or something to that effect yards on of total offense. And I said he couldn't have any more than one. One touchdown is all he's allowed. He had two. Again, they won the football game. So he's the key. If I'm Kansas City defensively, the first guy that I walk into the meeting, the defensive meeting, and we start talking about, the guy we spend the most time talking about is 23, Christian McCaffrey. Because as he goes, that 49ers offense goes. And if I'm the Chiefs, I'm forcing Brock Purdy to beat me because I don't think he can. So I'm forcing a guy that has never played in a game of this magnitude to go out and get it done by himself. And he's got weapons. You know, I talked about Brandon Ayuk. He's got Deebo Samuel. He's got George Kittle. He's got weapons, right? Don't sleep on, other guys that have stepped up throughout this season and throughout this postseason run. The receiver from Tennessee, I'm blanking on his name right now, but he was huge in the game against Green Bay. He stepped up when Deebo got injured, right? So they got weapons. That's not the issue here. But you want Brock Purdy having to get it done. Let him prove it. Make him do it again. He's shown some toughness, mental toughness. He's shown that he can overcome adversity. He did not play well early and often, really, in that Packers game. But when they needed him the most, he stepped up. He did not start the game great against Detroit. But when they needed him the most, he stepped up. He rallied the troops. And that drive to take the lead and really put the game out of reach and go up 10 late was huge, right? So Purdy has shown the ability. Make him do it again. In the biggest stage there is. Make him do it again. And the way you do that is by taking away Christian McCaffrey. So if you're Kansas City, they're going to look to establish the run. Kyle has always looked to establish the run early in ball games, particularly now with a young quarterback like Brock Purdy. He's gone out and tried to establish the run. They're going to do that in this game. If you're Kansas City, you can't allow this to be the Buffalo game all over again, where you're getting gouged and gashed in the run game early, and it takes you a while to adjust. If you need to come out aggressive to set the tone and pull that eighth defender into the box early to stop the run, do it. Because the 49ers aren't a deep shot team. That's not what they generally do. Now, they will take shots if you get nosy and they catch you being nosy and they catch your hand in the cookie jar, but that's not who they are at their core. They want to run that 18-yard dig route. They want to hit you over the middle of the football field and get their chunks that way, okay? But I'd be aggressive early. I'd be looking to run blitz early and, try to set a tone. Maybe catch them on a toss on the first play of the game because they're going to McCaffrey first play of the game. That's my guess. You're going to have to make me wrong if I'm Kansas City. If I'm defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo, I'm run blitzing on the very first play of the game, looking to see if I can't get a 2-3 yard, tackle for loss and put them behind the sticks and see if I can't get them off the field 3 and out in the first possession of the game. I'm rolling the dice right out of the gate, seeing if I can't, catch them on a toss. They love running tosses, love getting to the edges and getting out there with Trent Williams. I'd run a cat blitz right off the nickel. First play of the game and see if I can't catch them on a toss. See what I can do, right? But that to me is the first key to the game, attacking McCaffrey and slowing him down. You may not be able to fully stop him, but slow him down and put the onus on Brock Purdy to win the game. And then I would go on to say, if you're the Chiefs defensively, be sure to account for the guys that matter. The Deebo Samuel, he's going to touch it in the backfield once or twice. He's going to touch it on a wide receiver screen once or twice. Tackle, okay? A lot of their yards, Christian McCaffrey included, a lot of their yards come run after the catch. Just tackle. One thing I can say about the Chiefs is they do a really good job of tackling. I was impressed with them all postseason long, but particularly in that Ravens game where they've got a lot of slippery receivers and Lamar's a slippery guy. They weren't having that shit. So I expect them to continue to do what they've done all season long, and that's be a fundamentally sound, well-tackling football team. If they can continue to do that, then they should be able to hold guys like Deebo Samuel in check. But if you let him get going and get ahead of steam, he's physical, and then he gets going downhill, he turns into damn near Derrick Henry in a much, lighter frame, essentially. He becomes a handful to deal with. You don't want any smoke when it comes to Deebo. Get him before he gets going, right? Get him down before he gets going. And then just don't lose sight of George Kittle, because he doesn't. It's funny because Kittle doesn't catch 7, 8, 9 balls in a game. That's not even what he does anymore. But what he does do is he catches 3 balls for 92 yards and a touchdown. And that's the shit that breaks your back. It's not that he's going to catch 7 or 8 like, Kelsey will. Kelsey will nickel and dime your ass 11 times for 107, right, in a touchdown. So on a critical 3rd and 4, Kelsey for 6. On a critical 3rd and 7, Kelsey for 9. That's what Kelsey's going to do. He's going to nickel and dime the shit out of you. George Kittle is going to hit you for a 27-piece in your mouth, right? Just when you get lulled to sleep by Ayuk and McCaffrey, and you're keying in on Deebo, here comes George Kittle on a deep over route, wide ass open, and now you can't tackle him, and he's rumbling down the sidelines, and he's getting pumped up, and he's getting the crowd involved, and that's George Kittle. And he'll do that 2 or 3 times a game, and you'll look up, you're like, damn, Kittle had 3 catches for 93 yards, 31 a pop, and a touchdown. Don't let that shit happen either, right? Keep him to minimal gains. He's going to catch the football 2 or 3 times in this game. Just don't let him break 2 tackles and run somebody over and then run out of bounds and get everybody hyped up, right? Like, don't let him turn a 12-yard catch into a 24-yard catch, because he does that better than any tight end in the league. So those are the keys, right? Try to limit the explosive plays. They love to get those 21, 24, 27-yard chunks, just like Sean McVay. They're not really looking to hit you over the top with the explosive 55-yard deep ball. Now, if you give them that opportunity, they'll take it, but they're really looking to get you to suck up to play action, to hit you in the middle of the field for 18, for 21, for 25. But the tackling is the key, because you can limit that 13-yard catch to 13 yards if you just tackle. Too often, teams that play San Francisco don't limit that 13-yard catch to a 13-yard catch, and it turns into 22 yards, or it turns into 27 yards, or in the rare instance, or sometimes the not so rare instance, it turns into a 58-yard touchdown, right? That's what you got to guard against with McCaffrey, with Deebo Samuel, with George Kittle, right? So let's get to the Chiefs offensively, what they need to do in this game. To me, it's simple. Continue to be who you've been in the postseason. I don't want to see the Chiefs from the regular season show up in this game, okay? Continue to be the Chiefs that I've seen in the postseason, the Chiefs that have been very balanced, who have pressed the issue running the football. Isaiah Pacheco has gotten a ton of work this postseason. I know he's dealing with a little something, but he should be ready to go. I don't know if Jerick McKinnon is going to play, but if he does, what a boost that is for the Chiefs offensively. He's such a weapon for them. They've missed him. Clyde Edwards-Helaire has filled in, but he's no Jerick McKinnon, that's for sure. If you can get Pacheco to continue to run hard, and you can get the same type of seams that the Lions and the Packers both were able to get against this 49ers defense. And what we saw, right, specifically, if we're getting nerdy here, we saw a lot of pressing the edge against San Francisco and then cutting it back. Whether it was a toss, and both teams, both the Packers and the Lions, had success with tosses to the outside, to the edge, by cracking down on those defensive ends, getting to the edge, sealing it, and then cutting it back. The biggest run the Packers had was that big toss to the outside. Then Aaron Jones cut it back against the grain, right? Stuck his foot in the ground, cut it back, then cut it back again, and hauled ass all the way across the other side of the field for like a 55-yard gain, right? We saw it on the run for the touchdown by the first-round pick running back for the Lions. Oh man, Jahmyr Gibbs on his run where he got to the edge, cut it back, broke a tackle, and pretty much walked into the end zone. You can attack their edges, right? That'll soften them up, get them running, get them tired. And then if you can then, hit it up inside, you can have some success. We saw them the Lions have success. Montgomery was eating good against that 49ers defense between the C gaps, right? Between from C gap to C gap, he was eating good, and then Gibbs was doing the work towards the outside. So this is a vulnerable 49ers defense up front in terms of running the football. If you can get at them early and often, get them running, tire them out, I like that. But we know the Chiefs at their core want to spread you out and throw the football. That's who they are. That's who they've been. That's what Mahomes is. And that's when he's at his best. And they're going to continue to do that. And look, you're going to have to find the matchups, right? If they're taking away Kelsey, which I assume they're going to try to do their best to do, then you got to find the others. And we've seen guys step up. I talked about his role increasing and how he's ultimately going to become their number one. We'll see how they attack the offseason, but we've seen Rashid Rice step up and kind of assume that pseudo number one wide receiver role. They're going to need him to step up in this game. This is where stars are born, right? He's going to have to step up. MVS is going to have to step up. He cannot drop the football in this game. And he's been better the last two games in particular. They're going to need him to step up. But the guy that I think could ultimately prove to be a wild card, and I'll say two guys ultimately. Obviously, if McKinnon is playing, he's a problem. You need to keep tabs on him because he can hurt you out of the backfield. But two receivers to keep an eye on. And these are the type of games where these guys step up. Kadarius Toney. We know what he did in the Super Bowl last year. And yes, he's hurt the Chiefs more than he's helped them this season. First game of the season against the Lions, obviously the Bills game in the regular season. We know, and it's well documented, what he's done. And I don't think he was injured in the playoffs. I do think he was healthy enough to play. And it was like, nah, we good. But remember what he did on this stage last year. They didn't forget, did the Chiefs. And that's why he's going to be activated, I think, in this game. And don't sleep on Mecole Hardman either. Those are two guys with speed that are dynamic, that if they get loose, they could do some damage. Somebody's going to have to step up. And whether that's Rashid Rice, whether that's MVS, or one of those two guys that I just mentioned in Mecole Hardman or Kadarius Toney, somebody's going to have to step up outside of Travis Kelce. Jerick McKinnon is another guy to account for, but I think they got to run the football. If they run the football, and what we've seen from the 49ers is their lack of ability to get to the other team's quarterback. And their defensive coordinator does not like to blitz very often. He's not a guy that's a heavy pressure type of defensive coordinator. Okay, Steve Wilks has not really pressured this season. He didn't really pressure in the playoffs. And Jared Goff was able to be comfortable back there. Jordan Love was able to be comfortable back there. You give Patrick Mahomes that same amount of time, trust me, either he's going to dissect you surgically from the pocket, or he'll extend, make something happen, or he'll take off and run. Either way, if they don't get more pressure on Patrick Mahomes than they have been in the previous two playoff games, they're going to be carved up defensively by a marksman in Patrick Mahomes. So that's the Kansas City Chiefs side of things. You go to the 49ers, I've kind of told you how I feel. So it's just the opposite, right? For them defensively, they got to be better, flat out. They got to get more pressure on the quarterback. My guy Niners fan, earlier in the week on the pod came on and was like, look, they got their guard out. Joe Thuney is probably not going to play. All right. Andy Reid has already said he's a long shot with that pec injury. So Nick Allegretti is probably going to have to start. That's your in. That's your opportunity right there. Create one-on-ones against Nick Allegretti, okay? Force them to double team the other defensive tackle. You can force the issue by trying to split that gap between the center and the guard on that side and get you a one-on-one against Nick Allegretti. And then you're going to have to win that matchup, whether it's Eric Armstead or it's Javon Hargrave. Somebody's got to win one-on-one on the inside. Period. End of discussion. Because they're going to chip your ends. They're going to be aggressive, especially against Nick Bosa, because their tackles hold a lot. So they're going to help those guys because they're not elite tackles, and you're going to have to find a way to win on the interior. Nobody likes interior pressure. That includes Patrick Mahomes, okay? And Mahomes will do something stupid with the ball if you get to him fast enough, and there's no escaping it. He will still try to make something happen, and that could be your opportunity, right? But if you don't get pressure on him, which you haven't gotten pressure on anybody in the playoffs, he's going to eat you alive. And you got to be better at stopping the run. Again, you got away with it against Green Bay. You got away with it, and you shouldn't have against Detroit. You won't get away with it again if you continue to struggle the way you have defensively this postseason. We're going to need the 49ers defense that showed up in the regular season and was one of the best in the league to show up, and not the group that has shown up and just thought they were made men and expected teams to lay down for them and been just absolutely destroyed in the postseason. They're going to have to step up. And I've talked about all the options that the Chiefs will have, but most importantly, what it all really boils down to, if we're really simplifying things, they're going to try to establish Isaiah Pacheco, but really what they want to do is spread you out and throw it with Mahomes, okay? So what you've got to do is you've got to try to limit Pacheco's effectiveness, put them in long down and distance situations. They're going to try to nickel and dime you, get it out of Mahomes' hands quickly, make it so that it's 2nd and 8 after a first down run. And that 5-yard pass that Mahomes attempts on, 2nd and 8 is either incomplete because you're able to play tight up on these receivers and be aggressive, or you stop them for a 5 or 4-yard gain, make it 3rd and 4, and then again, have your opportunity for a stop on 3rd down. What you don't want is a 5-yard Pacheco run on 1st down, and now it's a 4 or 5-yard gain on 2nd with a short, quick pass by Mahomes, and they're either getting the 1st down and resetting the sticks or getting into a very short, manageable 3rd down where they're going to spread you out and they're going to find a guy. They're going to find a guy, or they're going to go play action fake, heavy play action fake, and try to exploit you down the field. Either way, don't put yourselves in that position, and definitely don't want to give up 8 or 9 on 1st down, which allows the Chiefs to go heavy play action fake on 2nd and short, knowing that they can come back and pick it up on 3rd and short, right? Limit the 1st and 2nd down effectiveness so that you can get into 3rd down, obvious passing situations and hopefully apply pressure to Mahomes. That's the goal if you're San Francisco. Defensively, it starts up front, though, stopping the run and trying to apply pressure, something you haven't done, as I've said already, in the postseason, and I don't know if it's going to change all of a sudden magically in the Super Bowl, but we'll see. Offensively, I've already told you what to do because I've explained what Kansas City can't allow you to do, so it's not rocket science here. Your bread and butter all year long has been Christian McCaffrey establishing the run, and off of that rushing attack, you've gone play action fake and had tremendous success. Brock Purdy has been allowed to sit in the pocket. He's been able to make easy, quick decisions. He's made some great throws sometimes, even under duress, but he's done a masterful job of running the Kyle Shanahan offense, getting to those reads over the middle of the field. I think he's at his best when he's throwing over the middle of the field, and it's not always to wide open receivers, but the better they run the football, the more effectiveness they have running the football, the more success they have over the middle of the field, because you have to come up as a linebacker and respect the threat of run. It opens up that second window, and now a guy comes running through it wide open, and Purdy does not miss often over the middle of the field, whether it's Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, or George Kittle. That said, establish the run early. And if they can't stop it, don't go away from it. It's really simple. Establish McCaffrey early and often, and if they can't stop it, then this should be a 28-carry Christian McCaffrey game. If you're having issues with the run early, don't go away from it, but, start to supplement it in other ways. Screen game, right? McCaffrey can catch it out of the backfield. So the screen game to McCaffrey, the screen game to Deebo Samuel, and that's how you supplement the run. Quick passes out of his hand into the hands of playmakers who make things happen. So there are other ways to offset the lack of a run game if McCaffrey's not having success. But if he is, stick with it, okay? And continue to pound the rock and force the Chiefs out of that too high shell, get them to come down in the box, give you that single high look, and then maybe you're able to take a shot down the field to try to keep them honest. But at the end of the day, you don't want Brock Purdy having to throw it, 40 times or 38 times in this game, or even 35 times. In an ideal world, Christian McCaffrey has 26 carries for 143 yards and 2 touchdowns, and Brock Purdy is 24 of 31 for 279 yards and a touchdown and no interceptions, or 2 touchdowns and no interceptions, and you win this game 31-23 or something to that effect. Like, that's an ideal world for you and situation, right? Where Purdy throws it somewhere in that neighborhood of 28 to 32 times. McCaffrey has it going on the ground, and you're able to establish that run, and he runs it anywhere from 20 to 27 times, and you're extremely balanced, and you're able to use that balanced attack to stay ahead of the sticks, stay out of long down and distances, not put too much pressure on Brock Purdy, and you're able to execute the offense the way that you want to, ideally. That's what you want to do. Easier said than done. And I'll add an extra caveat here that a lot of people may or may not be talking about. Do not allow this game to come down to the field goal kickers. Because there's one kicker that we do trust in Harrison Butker, who kicked the game-winning field goal last year. He's one of the best kickers in football. So if I have to bet on one of these kickers, give me Harrison Butker and the Kansas City Chiefs. Don't let this come down to a rookie kicker in Jake Moody. We've already seen him miss in the postseason. We've seen him miss in some clutch situations in the regular season. He's a good kicker, but he's young, and you cannot take the young boys anywhere. We've talked about this already. You leave the young boys home for these types of situations. Don't be relying on Jake Moody to win you a game walk-off style. Now, there could be a situation where a star is born, like Adam Vinatieri, once upon a time, right? Back in 2001. But let's not have it come down to that, because I don't trust the young fella. Do not allow this to come down to a last-second field goal if you're San Francisco. Because if it does, I'm not confident in Jake Moody's ability to knock it home. If you're the Chiefs, you're fine, however it goes, because you trust all levels of your football team, including special teams and your place kicker. So I'll just say that. Anyway, what do I think is going to happen? Let me preference this and start by saying this is Kyle Shanahan's time. He's been to the Super Bowl now twice, once as a coordinator, once as a head coach. This is the third time, and this needs to be the charm. Oftentimes, fans and players alike, I think, take it for granted. I don't think the 49ers players take it for granted, however, because they've gone before. So a lot of these guys went the first time. Some players, like Trent Williams, never been in his illustrious career, never been to the Super Bowl. So for some of these guys, this is not something you take for granted. But you don't know if you're going to get back here. You can't assume because you're the 49ers and you've been in the NFC Championship game 4 out of the last 5 years. You can't assume that you'll be back here again because you've been to the Super Bowl twice now in the last 5 years. You can't assume that. This could be the last time you make it to the Super Bowl. The NFC is getting better. There are young quarterbacks entering the league every year. There's no guarantee that you're back here again. You probably shouldn't even be here right now, if we're being honest, if the Lions didn't piss it away. So you've got to take advantage of this because there may not be another chance. So if you're Kyle Shanahan, you got to pull out all the stops. Anything that you've got in the bag of tricks, this is the week to pull it out. And we've heard that the fire alarm has been pulled at their hotel. Their practice facility has been trashed at UNLV. Everything points to a bunch of excuses why they might not play well. I don't want to hear them. find a way to get this shit done if you're the 49ers. Point blank. End of discussion. You don't win this one, Kyle Shanahan, this is your opportunity to change the narrative. So change it. Change it. You want to erase the stench that is 28-3? Win this game. You want to put behind you the 20-10 lead that you blew with 7 minutes to go? Put that behind you by winning this game. All of the narratives about how the 49ers can't come back when down, you erase those in the postseason this year. You put those to bed. Now you just got one more narrative to put to rest. Everybody knows your greatness as a play caller. Everybody knows how good of a coach you are. That's well documented in your past, in your ability to coach it up, scheme it up. That precedes you. But you know, the one thing that you just haven't been able to do and people aren't going to give you credit for it until you do this thing is win a Super Bowl. You want to go to that next tier of coaches. You want to take your name out of the tier with all the other quarterbacks or head coaches, rather, who haven't won a Super Bowl. Win. Win and take your name to that next level. For Andy Reid and Mahomes, this is all about legacy at this point. All right. Now we're looking, if you're Andy Reid, you're looking to try to get to that Belichick era, like that rarefied air up there with 3 Super Bowl wins. Not many coaches have that under their belt, right? There's not many coaches. I think there may be like 3 that I can think of. Obviously, Belichick and Chuck Noll are the 2 that come to mind. I don't know if there's another coach that's won 3 Super Bowls. A lot of them have won 2. There are a number of Joe Gibbs. I always do that. I don't know why I always do that. I thought it was 3. Joe Gibbs is the 3rd. I don't know if there are any other coaches that have won 3 Super Bowls. And I might be leaving out 1 or 2 guys. I apologize. I think we might have done this already with Andy Reid, but there aren't many coaches that have won 3 Super Bowls. As I just mentioned, 3 off the top of the dome. Belichick, Joe Gibbs, and how am I blanking on the Steelers? I just said his damn name. And the Steelers coach. I don't know why I'm blanking on his damn. And I can see his face in my head. At the end of the day, you have a chance to add your name to that list. It's a short list, bro. It's a very, very Chuck Noll. That's his name. Yeah, it's a very short list. It's not a lot of guys. And Mahomes, I've already said this, and I don't care what happens in this game. He's already the 2nd best quarterback in NFL history for me. Sorry, not sorry. And I don't feel like I need to explain myself. But if you want to debate, we can have a debate. He's already the 2nd best quarterback in NFL history. Some people already have him over Brady. I can't do that. But the conversation starts to become interesting if you get your 3rd Super Bowl. It starts to because of how much more football he has left to play. The conversation gets interesting. I said all of that to say this. I don't trust Kyle. I don't trust, and I love Kyle, and y'all know how I feel about Kyle, but I don't trust Kyle in this particular game because I think he gets in his head sometimes. Now, I don't think he lost that last Super Bowl like he did the one in Atlanta where he was over aggressive. And look, everything wasn't his fault, but a lot of it was. And the reason why Brock Purdy is here and Jimmy Garoppolo is not is because Jimmy Garoppolo missed that pass to Emmanuel Sanders in that Super Bowl, in 5 years ago, that would have potentially given them a chance to win that game. He missed that throw, and Emmanuel Sanders was open, and Kyle dialed up a gem. But I don't trust Kyle, unfortunately. I don't trust Brock Purdy enough. I don't trust him more than Mahomes. That's for damn sure. And I don't trust Kyle more than I trust Andy Reid. And I don't trust that. And more importantly, because I think Kyle will be fine. And to a lesser degree, I think Brock Purdy will be fine. I don't trust that 49ers defense at all. they've given me no reason to trust them. And it's because I trust Kansas City's defense, and they've been the pillar that has put Kansas City in the position that they're in right now. They gave up 10 points to the Ravens, this high-flying offense that have been crushing everyone. They gave up 10 points. Granted, the Ravens self-destructed and did stupid shit, but it doesn't matter. The Chiefs helped them with that. The Chiefs forced that fumble at the goal line. The Chiefs picked off Lamar Jackson in the end zone. They made those plays. They've been suffocating on defense all year long for the most part. They haven't given up 30 points to anybody all season long. They haven't given up 400 yards of total offense to anybody this season. They haven't allowed a 300-yard passer to anybody this season. That is not on accident. This is a legit defense. And with Mahomes and Kelsey and Reed on the other side of the ball, how can you say no to that? I got the Chiefs winning this Super Bowl 27-23 over the 49ers. And it could go one of two ways. Chiefs could be trailing 23-20 and Mahomes does it again. Or Chiefs could be up 27-23, Purdy has it, and that Chiefs defense does it again to preserve not giving up 30 all year and to preserve another Super Bowl championship for the Kansas City Chiefs. But 27-23 is my final score. What says you? Leave it down in the comment section. What we'll do is we'll have a bit of a Super Bowl party. It won't be a traditional party, but I want to give you a place if you've got nowhere to watch the game to be able to conversate with others, congregate in one area. So I'll have a live stream up. And what I'll do is at the end of every quarter, I'll give you an assessment. So I'll jump on. It'll be a live stream, but you won't see me, right? And it'll be muted. You won't hear anything. But then when the quarter's over, I'll jump behind the mic and we'll talk about what we've seen. And if something happens incredible, I might just jump on with you guys, right? But you'll have somewhere to sit and talk about the game. So we'll be doing that, because my house will be a madhouse during the Super Bowl. But we'll do that. And then obviously we'll be live after the game is finished, clearly. So we'll have both of those things transpiring on Super Bowl Sunday. So hopefully you'll join me. If you don't have anywhere else to watch it, you can watch it here with the MOBB. So let's get to a couple of supers that we got and we'll get out of here. Hexic Gaming. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, I know you like pronouncing names, right? This is off topic, sorry, but Tavita Pritchard's name is pronounced Tavita per official commander's website. I'm telling you what I was told by John Kime, who talked to Tavita himself, and he told him his name is pronounced Tavita. So I'm going to go with John Kime and not the team website. If John Kime tells me that he talked to this man specifically, like Marcus Mariota, we've been calling Marcus Mariota for years. And after a while, you just don't correct people anymore. But his name is pronounced Marcus Mariota. But after a while, you get tired of correcting people, so you just let the Mariota roll, right? It's Tavita Pritchard. He told John Kime. So I'm gonna just roll with that. I'm not saying that the team site is wrong and you're wrong, but I'm telling you what the man told John Kime, and John Kime has no reason to lie to me. So if mama named him Tavita, I'm gonna call him Tavita. Junior Nando, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Just like Daron Payne, it's Daron, D-A apostrophe capital R-O-N. You know what they do now? It's just D-A, it's capital D-A-R-O-N. You know why? Because after a while, you get tired of correcting people and making sure that it's Daron. It's just Daron. All right. Like after a while, you just like, all right, it's whatever. I'm not going to keep, correcting people. Junior Nando, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Junior writes, let's go. Tom Grossi, NFL Fan of the Year. I didn't even know they had one of those. That's good for him. He's a dude that kills it on YouTube, is a Packers fan. I know Junior Nando is a Packers fan. So good for him. And good for the Packers fans out there. Anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T, here on this installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I look forward to chopping it up with you guys on Super Bowl Sunday. Should be a lot of fun. Enjoy the weekend, and we will come back and break it all down on Monday, right? But we'll be here post game, and hopefully you'll join me during the game. Again, if you don't have anywhere to watch it, you're not doing nothing, tap in. We'll be here kicking it, watching the Super Bowl. So somewhat together, right? Somewhat together. Anyway, I digress. You guys, get out of here. Enjoy your weekend. God bless, and good night. LouieTeeNetwork.